Hello, my visionary artist friend. My name is Willie Balloon. I'm your instructor, and I am so excited you are here today. Now, you might say, Willie, why do you call me visionary? I'm just an artist trying to strengthen my art skills. Well, yes, you are an amazing artist, and you might not think that you're where you need to be at yet, but that's okay because what I want you to do is to see the real you. Now, you see, the real you possess a brilliance inside. You, your brilliance, it trumps over your amazing art skills. And you just have to unleash it by seeing the possibilities of your imagination. And that's what I'm here to do. And so you see, what I've learned is that art is all about creating something that is a true expression of yourself, your experiences, your challenges, your joy, and especially your story. That's very key because your story is what will impact others in a major way if you allow yourself to be true and authentic. And that's what the legendary artists have all learned how to do. And as a child, I became art became my safe haven from the pressures of the world that consumed me. But what I learned is when I used that in my illustrations, I told a better story. And great story don't come without a challenge. So I want you to explore that too, because your story will impact others. Trust me, it will. And so I'm a man of faith, and I believe that God created a story worth telling inside you. So are you ready to go on this journey to tell your story? Let's learn how to tell your story visually. So join me as we start module one below. So see you there. All right, my visionary friend. As we begin to execute character art, there is two things I want you to consider. I want you to consider number one is that I want to get you to be able to see, okay? And number two, I want you to be able to tell a story, okay? So I believe that this is the two skills an artist must have in order to be an effective artist. Now, there is no right or wrong way since art is subjective. So there's not a right or wrong way to do this. But if you can impact someone in the way of a message you want to convey, then I want you to be able to see and to be able to tell a story. If you can do those two things, I believe you'll be able to convey your message even better and more effectively. So, as you may know or may not know, I have created some original superhero characters named the Z Enforcers. Now, we will be using them to aid us in this journey, but in this video, we will be dealing with three basic shapes. Now, these three shapes are the origin of all shapes you would probably draw from any reference in life or any still life or any actual living thing that you want to draw. It derives from these three shapes that I want you to consider. So let me show you what I'm talking about and what I mean by that. So as you can see here, you have three origin shapes. You have a circle, you have a square, and you have a triangle. And so under each column, under the circle, the square, and the triangle, you see different variations of that original shape. And so when we look in things in life, we can see that there's different variations that derive from a circle, square, and a triangle. And so that's what I want you to notice when you look at things in life. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to sketch out my first sketch of squares, our first shape of squares. And so what I'm doing is I'm using a sketching line movement. I'm just going back and forth until I get the line that I want. And sometimes people may regard this as hairy drawings or hairy sketch lines, and you want to draw with your whole arm. But you do what feels comfortable for you, because the more you do it, the more you exercise these muscles, your lines will get more refined as you go. So I'm working from a graphics tablet, so you may be working from a pencil and paper, the traditional way, and that's a great way to begin in sketching your drawings. I actually prefer drawing that way, but I'm going to do it digitally so that you can see how I'm doing it, and you can get a better idea of how I do it. And so what I'm doing is, if you notice that I'm crisscrossing the corners of the squares. Now this is a technique that you can use to make a perfect square or make a perfect size, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to get each line equal. And a good way to do that is to let the corners crisscross each other. Now, you don't have to always do that, but that's just one technique. And what you'll find with sketching is that there's more than one technique to achieve a goal. And that's the beauty of art, is because there's not just one way to reach a goal or a desired outcome that you wish to have with your artwork and your drawings. So be willing to explore, and that's what makes you a great artist, is to try to gather as many tools as you can. And as artists, we all help each other out. We learn from each other. We're inspired by each other. So if you see an artist that you really like, take notice of what they're doing. Look at what they're doing to make those lines the way they make them, or how they draw. And instead of just copying them, just try to see what are they doing that makes their drawings different, and you can use that and develop your own style. So what I'm doing is I'm sketching out these squares, because what I'm doing is I'm practicing getting my muscles, my sketching muscles, stronger and sharper. And so as you can see, as more and more I go, the lines get more refined. When I first started out, they were pretty hairy sketches. They're pretty, they weren't real refined lines. But as you see, as I go, my lines get a little bit better. That's the good thing about practicing. So what I'm doing is I'm working those muscles. So I want you to try this, because what you want to do is you want to get used to drawing these squares. And so now what I'm doing is I'm just drawing more squares, just working out. This is like a warm up, okay? So you want to warm up. Now it may seem like this is just basic and elementary to just draw these shapes, but what this does is, believe it or not, it really strengthens your muscles when you're drawing. And so the more you can get better with drawing basic shapes, the more you'll be able to create complex shapes or more elaborate type shapes. So as you can see, I'm rotating it now. I'm getting ready to rotate the square. Instead of drawing it vertical, I'm getting ready to rotate it. So I'm rotating it now because I want to be able to draw it from all angles. And you might wonder, how do you make it perpendicular to each other? How do you make it, a perfect right angle? Well, the more you practice with your muscles by sketching, the more you're able to make it look like a right angle instead of being a zigzag or on your lines. And so as you can see here, because I've been practicing drawing the squares, as you see, I'm practicing, those muscles got stronger to where now I can rotate the square. So I want you to try this out and see how it works for you, because the more you do it, the more you're able to get that eye and hand coordination. So what you want to do to get that eye and hand coordination down good is, it's a feeling. You have to keep doing it. And that's what drawing is all about. It's a feeling. So I want you to try this out. So now what we're doing is we're drawing our second shape. We're getting ready to draw our triangle this time. I'm going to start with the triangle. I know the square may have been next, or the circle may have been led, but I want to try this triangle because I want you to kind of get the angles for triangles, and the more you practice, the better you get. As you can see, the first one I drew just the outline of the triangle. I didn't use the crisscross method on the corners, but as the second one, you can see I did use the crisscross. So it allows you, when you're practicing drawing shapes, it allows your muscles to warm up to where you can draw the other shapes better. Okay, so that was the purpose of being able to draw one. Okay, so now look at how I'm doing this. I'm making it kind of like it looks like a sailboat. Okay, you see how that I made the line go in the middle, and then I made a line perpendicular, and then I add the sides to them. Those are just different ways you can draw a triangle. And so the more you try different methods of drawing, the more your hand and eye coordination muscles get stronger and stronger and stronger. And so sometimes you may wonder, like, why are we doing this over and over again? Like, what is the benefit of this? Well, it's kind of like on Karate Kid, the movie, if you've ever seen Karate Kid, where Mr. Miyagi, his trainer, was getting him to do jobs he didn't understand what it had to do with him learning how to be able to do martial arts well. But as he found out that all of those tasks that Mr. Miyagi had him doing was building his muscles to prepare for what he was going to actually do, and that all of those different acts wasn't all in vain. They weren't for nothing. They were strengthening his muscles, and it was teaching him his eye and hand coordination as to how to be able to defend himself in the fight during the martial arts tournament. And so this is what drawing does. Sometimes you try out these little methods of drawing basic shapes to get your muscles strong, and then it pays off in the end when you draw more complex shapes. You know, you may be drawing a teepee later, or you may be drawing a pyramid later. But the more you practice these muscles, it makes those things easier to draw. And you see how I'm doing this? Now, this wasn't very refined on the lines, but that's okay, because what you want to do is you want to get your muscles used to drawing different type of triangles. As you can see, I drew a flattened triangle. But you can see when I added the line in the middle, it made it a little bit different. It made it helped my muscles to be able to register the information better. And I did that same triangle, but this time I tilted it to the left. So you can do things like that and try that out. So I want you to, if you have to stop this video to try this out, do it. And now I'm tilting it to the right. Okay, so try that out. Okay, so now we're going to do our final shape, which is a circle, or you can call it a sphere. So now circles are not as easy to draw as the more geometric shape, because it's an organic shape, and sometimes it just takes a lot of practice, and just keep doing it over and over again until you get it the way that you want to. Okay, if you notice, I'm doing several lines until I get it the way that I want to, because it's just the practice. And one thing about it is it gets it's kind of a different ball game when you do it digitally, but when you do it traditionally from hand, it's a little bit easier.
but I wanted to show you digitally so that you could see it, and you could also see how you could overcome the challenges of working digital, because sometimes it can be challenging because you're trying to get the computer to do naturally. Now, as you can see this method right here, what I did is I drew a cross, and then when I drew that cross, I drew the top half and then the bottom half, and then I went around. So you can try that out. So here I'm doing it again. So I make my cross. Okay. Then now I'm just going all the way around. Okay. This is going to come in handy for us later when we start putting together figures. So I'm drawing a cross, and notice how I made this oval shape. See, maybe this could be a head, or maybe it could be an egg. So you see how that you can use a cross to make different variations of a circle or an oval. Okay. So now I'm tilting it to the right, and then I make my oval. So this is another way you can make a oval with the shape. Now I'm going to tilt it this way. See how that works? And ovals, when you look in life, you see ovals everywhere. You'll see an oval when you look at an egg. You see an oval when you look at the top of a cylinder. You see an oval. It's all kind of ways that we see ovals in real life. And you might say, Miss Willie, why are you looking at why aren't you looking at a reference? Shouldn't you be looking at a reference in order to draw this? You can draw that with a reference, but it's good to try to practice and see if you can do hand and eye coordination just from your mind. The more you can do that, when you look at a reference, you'll be able to break it down even easier, because the name of the game right here is to strengthen your muscles, your drawing muscles, and how you sketch and how your lines end up. If you notice, when I started, my lines wasn't as great, but as more and more I went, I was able to do it without using a reference, because it warms your muscles up. And that's how the body works, and that's what's awesome about art, is you can do that with no problem. And see, I'm even making a curved type circle, so it could be like a cashew nut or a banana, but because I did that, I was able to do that. So I want you to try that out. Okay, so now what I want you to take notice is when you take these shapes, simple shapes we made, and we can create them and connect them together to make them 3D. Okay, so what we're going to get ready to do now is we're going to connect these shapes, these simple shapes that we created, the square, circle, and triangle, and put them together to make 3D shapes. So we're going to take each shape and make it a 3D version. So our first shape we're taking is our square that we drew before. So we want to draw a 3D version of our square now. Okay. So what I did is I drew my square, and notice how I'm able to draw my square better without it. My lines look a little bit better because I got that practice, that exercise at first. That's why it's important. But to make this look 3D, typically what is done is you make a square. It could be at the top corner of the left hand side or the right hand side. It doesn't matter, whichever way you want it to the back end to show. So since I drew my other square, then I connect the corners together. And that's how typically you make a 3D shape, or 3D cube as it's called. So another way you can do this and make a box pretty simply is we would first make a square, and then at the top hand corner on your right hand, see I'm making it go down here on the bottom corner here, and I'm going to connect those lines. So I did it two ways. I did it with the front facing down, and then now I did with the front facing up. So here right now I'm doing a different technique right here. So I'm drawing, this is not actually a square, but it's a variation of a square, which is a rectangle. So what I did is on the corner, you see how I drew that corner at the top right hand side, and now I connect the corners. But I'm not going to connect the inside corner because I want this to look like a box. You see that? I don't want you to see through it like a glass. So in order to do that, what I can do is draw my square first, and then on the corner, draw just the corner, the right angle, and then connect. You see how I'm doing that? So it's just that easy to try out. Okay. Now, this doesn't have perspective on it. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about perspective in the next module. But right now, what I want you to do is I want you to kind of look at how you can make things look 3D from a square point of view, or a cube, or a box, or some kind of a box shape. You can always draw from the corner, make a right angle, make your square, make a right angle, and then connect. And you see what I'm doing? What am I doing? That's right, I'm tilting it to the right now. Where do you all want to put my right angle? I'm putting it right here because I want it to connect here. You see that? So this is just very, very beneficial to you to be able to practice working your sketching muscles and drawing these 3D shapes. And see, on this one, I'm doing the crisscross on the corners. So I'm drawing it different ways so you can get the different ways that you can do this. There's not a right or wrong way to do it. It's just whatever feels more comfortable and for more natural for you. See that? And you notice how my lines are getting better? How it's starting to feel like it has motion. And I actually put perspective on that box I just drew, and I didn't even try to. But when you practice your muscles like that, you're able to see 3D. And that's what you want to do when you're drawing. You want to be able to see in 3D. That means see the object as it's actually a 3D object that you can rotate. You see that? See how I'm doing that? Let me tilt the square. And then put my right angle so I can connect. See that? You see how it's getting more pronounced and more refined when I draw it, because I've been practicing the sketch lines. With my practicing of the previous shapes, now I'm able to do this with no problem. See that? Now this looks like it has perspective to it. You see that? So I want you to try that out. Okay, so now we're doing our final shape. So this time we're doing I'm sorry, not our final shape, but our second shape. So now we're doing a triangle. see what I'm doing? I connected it on the ends here. See how I made that 3D? And this is the original way that it's done. See where you can see through it like we did the first square. So you can do it either way. The more you do this, the more you'll be able to see it without looking at it. You know, I used to love going to Comic Cons and watching some of my favorite artists draw sketches. And it seemed like they didn't use any kind of instruments or any kind of tools to help them draw. They just knew where everything needed to go. And it was just like second nature to them because they've been drawing so much. That's what happens when you practice. Drawing is a type of skill that you have to practice and keep your practice up because you can get rusty. And what I mean by getting rusty is sometimes when you get away from drawing, you kind of gotta exercise those skills to get it back again. But they'll come back, but it's just you have to stay in practice. You have to stay in practice. And so I'm just drawing the triangle, the different ways that we've done it when we worked previously. See that? And I'm just defining my lines now. And many times when artists they draw, when they're first starting out, they'll use tools like rulers and things of that nature. But I say try to practice without those tools and to get your drawing and your sketching, your strokes, get more practice out of your strokes. And I guarantee you it will make a lot of difference. So as you can see right here, I'm drawing a cone. So there's two ways you can make a 3D triangle. You can make a 3D triangle by making it like the top of a house like I did earlier, or a tent, or you can do a cone. And so what I've done with the cone is I made a ellipse. That oval is called an ellipse. It's a flattened circle. And then I draw my top corner of a triangle on top of it. You see that? And as you can see, I drew a dot and then I drew a line perpendicular to that dot. And you see how I'm drawing that line because that's where I want my cone to point. See that? And then I just connect the point on the sides. So how many shapes did I put together? Looks like I did two shapes because I did an ellipse and a triangle together. See my ellipse here? Now watch this. I made a small one and a big one. I made my line in the middle. And all I got to do is just connect the sides. See that? Now it looks like a cone. See how that works? Try that out. Okay, now we're finally to our final shape, which is what? That's right, the sphere. So there's some ways we can do it. We can make it look like a sphere. See, just like this, okay? And then I drew another So I'm getting my practice of my circle here. Warming up. And now I'm going to make it a 3D cross. You see that? You see, by me putting those curves, it looks like the circle is 3D. It looks like it's a sphere instead of just a circle. Because a circle is 2D, it's flat. But a sphere is 3D. So by the way that I put the lines on, it looks 3D. And see how I made this ellipse inside? Because I'm showing the maybe like the middle half of the circle, and then I'm showing the vertical half of the circle. See how I did that? That's 2 ellipses. And now I'm gonna draw it dark so you can kind of see what I've done. See that? So it looks 3D now because I added those lines cross to it. Draw my circle here. Okay, you see that? Now it looks 3D. So the more you try this out, the better it'll get, or easier it'll get for you. So you just keep practicing your lines. Now, watch what I'm going to do here. I put 2 circles here, okay? Well, watch what I do when I put these 2. I connect the sides. Now what do I have? Looks to me like I have a cylinder. See that? Now I make it like an ellipse or a oval. See, I have 2 ovals and then I connect the sides. So it looks like a cylinder. See how that works? Connect the sides. So I want you to try this out. So draw your ellipse, your 2 ellipses, and then connect them. Now you might say, why are you drawing the line, Willie? Well, I'm drawing the line because I want it to be turned in an angle. And what's my next step? That's right. Draw the sides. So now that I drew the sides and connected them, it looks like a cylinder that's tilted. See how that works? It's a magical thing when you draw. It's really a magical thing. If you can see 3D, it will portray 3D. Now look what I'm doing right here. I'm putting a circle on top of ellipse. Okay, and now I'm going to connect the sides. Now you see how this looks? What could this be? It could be a bottle, maybe, or some type of a vase or a cup. See how I'm doing that? I draw the circle first, then I make an ellipse, and then I make a line go straight down, and then I connect on the sides. Connect the sides. And it's that simple, like that. Draw another circle. What does this kind of look like? Could that be a human figure? So you see how this works out when you when you connect shapes together. See how I'm connecting the sides, and now this looks 3D. This is what you want to do. So now when I darken the line, look at this, watch this. You see how magical that looks? Oh my goodness, you see that? Looks like I have a baton or something. So I want you to try this out now and see how it works for you.